This week's Know Your Cash word of the week is the stock market. My name is Arabile Gumede, and the buck stops here.
When I was growing up, one of the biggest things I thought I'd be able to do is invest. And it just felt so good to be able to say things like that. But what does it actually mean? What is the stock market and what is the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? Let's talk about both of those elements. Now, a stock market is seen as possibly the most formal way of entering an investment. Now, you have a whole group of companies that perhaps list on something called the stock exchange. That just means that there is a single body that has allowed companies to gather in one place so that they're able to raise funds. The whole point of the stock exchange is to try and raise funds for that company, which will in turn repay the person who invests in that company by giving them things like dividends. And obviously, with the share price going up, that means that they will get more money at the end of that investment. But what does it mean to invest in that company, and what are you doing it for? Well, for you and I, basically, you're trying to invest in the growth of a company. And that's what that combination of companies does at the stock market. It is a combination of people coming together to try and enhance a particular company. So imagine you're at a food market and ultimately you get there and you try to buy a plate of food. Now, you come to that market where there's a whole lot of food being sold. Imagine those to be companies. The plate of food you do eventually buy is probably because it is enticing, looks tasty, you believe it will be filling, and the profit at the end is that you will be full. So it's almost the same premise. You go to the stock market to buy shares in a company so that it is hopefully able to give you a fullness when it comes to how much money you will have at the end of that investment term. So the stock market is where all of these people gather. It's not just companies, but there are things called currencies as well. There's commodities. Currencies are literally the exchange between you and I in terms of money. There's also then the commodities, which is the trading in gold, the trading in silver, the trading in platinum, the trading in oil as well. All of that happens at a stock market. So what is the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? This is Africa's biggest stock market then. It is the combination of companies that are in South Africa and some that trade outside of South Africa. And you have companies that are invested in many different aspects and different parts of South Africa. Those are called diversified companies. You also have companies that are listed or trade on the stock market in South Africa, which is the JSE, but also trade on other stock markets around the world, whether it be the London Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. Now, if they trade on those other platforms, they're called hedges. Why? Because they basically ensure that their funding and their finances are not just rand denominated, but also happen in another currency. That currency in London would of course be the pound. In New York Stock Exchange would be the dollar because it is in America. So all of those aspects come into play. And the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is the biggest coming together of these businesses and companies and currencies and even commodities in the continent that allows people to buy shares and buy an investment of any kind in order for them to grow their money.
Know Your Cash is supported by the South African Insurance Association.